Miss Patricia is back again on your screen. Remember, we promised you last time that we are going to give you a video of a teaching of how we should brood different birds, or why we shouldn't brood different birds in the same brooding environment, especially at a tender age. This is Patricia from Heartland Farm. Please try to subscribe. We expect you to watch our videos and subscribe. Don't only watch the video, try to subscribe and click on the notification bell so that we will be able to give you more and more videos, because we are also learning from it. Talking about it makes us realize our different mistakes that we have been making. So hope you stay tuned to watch these teachings and grab something from it. Let's talk about why we shouldn't brood different age group of birds in the same brooding environment, especially the chicks, the guinea cats, and the turkey powlets. What are these reasons why we shouldn't brood them in the same brooding environment? Number one reason we will talk about today is disease transmission. Disease transmission in brooding environment. Younger birds are more prone to disease and parasites, which can be transmitted from one bird to the other, especially the older ones. If we have experienced brooding before and you have really gone into brooding very well, you will discover that brooding older birds, most times you go to some people's poultry farm, you see birds of 6 weeks, birds of 4 weeks being brooded together with day-old chicks. Imagine that kind of environment. Imagine carrying a newborn baby, a day-old baby, to go and keep in a crèche where we have older babies. How will that environment be? Please, we are going to talk about it today, because disease transmission is very important when it comes to brooding different age groups of birds together. The older birds can easily be infected. The older birds are infected already. If they are infected, then you carry your day-old chicks or day-old guinea cats or day-old powlets to go and mix with the older birds. What do you expect to get from it? Disease transmission. You see that the older birds will easily transmit their disease to the younger birds, and this can lead to health issues and high mortality rates among the younger birds. Imagine me going to a poultry farm to buy a day-old guinea cat, and then I bring it home and mix it with the layers. You see that I have totally destroyed the foundation of those guinea cats. Why? Because they can easily be stampeded on top, they can be walked over, they are not yet strong enough to stand on their own. So you bring them together, you are just killing the foundation of those birds. It can lead to high level of health issues, and then when there is health issues in the younger ones, what do we expect? We expect high mortality rates. We expect loss. Number two, we talk about the nutritional needs. Different species and age groups have specific nutritional needs when it comes to brooding. For instance, the pearls, they need a higher nutritional feed, and then the guinea cats follows. Feeding them together might cause a lot of damages, because their diet may result in nutritional deficiency or nutritional imbalance. Imagine putting a day-old chick, day-old guinea cat, and day-old powlets together, and you are giving them the same feed. That feed might be comfortable for the chick. It might be the standard of the chick, which is the chickens, but might not be the standard for the powlets, and might not be the standard for the guinea cat. Although the guinea cat and the turkey powlets, they don't have too much difference when it comes to nutritional feeds, when it comes to the quality of feed that should be given to them at brooding level. But when it comes to the chicken, there is a lot of difference. A lot of us make these mistakes. We have also experienced it. That is why we are talking about it. In a normal setting, an Englishman says experience is the best teacher. Number three is behavioral differences. Different species and age groups of birds exhibit different behaviors. You see, the older birds tend to peck at the younger birds. So when you mix them together, you find out that when in their growth level, you find out that the turkeys grow taller and faster than the chickens, and the guinea cats also grow faster than the chicks. So when you mix them together, you see that the turkeys begin to peck on the younger ones, and it can cause a lot of damages to their health. They bully them, they peck at the younger ones and the smaller ones, leading to injuries or stress. Most times you find out that your younger kids, your younger birds are dead. Why? It's not because they died from any disease transmission or infection. It's because the elderly ones have bullied them. And even in animals, we have bullies, not just in humans alone. Sometimes imagine carrying your younger child to go and put in a higher class in school. You find out that that child comes back looking stressed, looking unhappy, looking down. Why? Because the elderly ones that you took them to had bullied them. I grew up in a school where we were fast forwarded to a higher level in class. We met people of different higher ages, and when we want to discuss with them, they will ask us, who is your friend? That is what happens also when you bring day-old chicks or younger chicks to join with the older birds. They begin to bully them, they peck on them. Most times the little space you give, you find out that they peck on their anus, and it brings out their intestine. I've encountered that one in our farm severally. So we try as much as possible to separate the older ones from the younger ones. Then number 4, we talk about the environmental requirements. Different species and age groups may require different temperatures and brooding conditions. You don't just put them together because you want to brood. For instance, let's talk about the turkey powlets. The turkey pearls often need higher temperature compared to the chicks and guinea cats during initial brooding period. So that is why you cannot put them together when you are brooding them. Why? Because if the turkey pearls need a higher temperature and you take your chicks and put with them, the chicks will burn to death. It will cause heat stroke. It will result to heat strokes. And when it results to heat stroke, what else do you notice? You notice paralysis in them, and then they die. So this is one of the reasons why you should not brood different age groups and different species of birds together in order to avoid incurring losses in your farm. Number 5, let's talk about the size disparities. Larger birds might take advantage of the smaller birds when they are brooded together, when they are put in the same pen. And larger birds tend to stampede on the smaller birds. They tend to climb on the smaller birds. So in order to avoid stampedes in your poultry brooding, you have to separate them. There must be separation. You can create different cages or different pens to brood your birds of different sizes. Recently, we just transferred some of our birds because we have seen that they have reached the age of transfer. So you don't need to put them together, because putting them together can cause a lot of damages. You can incur so many losses, because when you put them together, due to their size difference, especially in confined brooding space, you can incur so many losses. They can be dead, they will climb on them, their feeders can cover on them, there is no strength to push it up, they cannot be able to compete in eating with the larger birds. That is why you don't put them together. Put birds of the same age bracket together. I understand that in some of our farms, due to space, we cannot separate breeding environments or breeding areas for our different ages and species of birds. So if you must breed them together, let us consider these two key points in that aspect. Separation by divers. You separate them, you use physical barriers within the breeding area to keep them apart. Because, okay, for example, you have just one room to use in brooding. You can use a plywood or a stick to separate them from the middle, so that you can put the other bed this other way and you put this other bed this other way, in order for them not to be too compacted. Because when you don't separate them, it can cause a lot of damages. Separation by dividers can also help them to have different temperatures and lighting more easily, because when you put all of them together, the environment becomes very congested for them. You see that there is no ventilation for them, so they become very stressed. They begin to pant, and then they can have heat strokes, and they can be stampeding. Then when the second key fact is adjusting their diets. You can adjust their diet very well. When you adjust their diet, you provide specific diets or specific feed, and ensure that all of the birds have access to their different feeds. Why? Because there is a little space that you have been able to separate them. Then when in this other, in the third key point is also that you can monitor them closely. Pay close attention to the bird's health, behavior, and growth. You can separate them. Once you separate them, you monitor them closely. Here at Heartland Farm, we don't joke with that. We monitor our birds. When we come in the morning, we open their pens. Although because our own we separate, we have enough space. There's enough space for brooding, so we don't congest them. Sometimes another chicken might be standing on top of another one, and if you pay less attention, if you are not observant, you find out that every time you go into your pen, you meet a dead bird or a suffocated bird, because when they are too closely compacted, it can lead to suffocation and death. And then that is when we can incur several losses and high mortality. Ultimately, while we try as much as possible to brood all our birds separately, it can cause us a lot of expenses or expenditure. But it's very paramount that we try our best to make sure that we brood our birds of different species separately, in order not to incur losses. Because when there is losses, it leads to discouragement, and we will not be happy incurring so many losses while trying to brood our birds. What will be the joy of a farmer coming every day to count mortality rate in birds, high mortality rates in birds? We try our best, because even the best we try is not good enough, but we put in more effort. Let us try as much as possible to treat these birds as humans, because in human beings, as a human, when you go to the hospital, you are being treated specially. So let's try our best also to treat our birds specially, because this is where we try to get our daily income from. So we should not treat them differently. While trying to brood them, we should also ensure that we create a conducive environment for them to be brooded and be well fed and well kept and well monitored. Thank you. I hope we've learned a little, or we've learned much from this little teaching. Why? Because I have learned a lot. When we talk about these things, we learn a lot of lessons from them. Please, my followers, please, my viewers, don't forget to subscribe. We are pleading with you to subscribe to our links and our channels. Press on the notification bell so that you will gain more notifications when we post our videos. Hope we will meet again in our next video, because our next video will be power packed. It will be full of a lot of learning. We are going to talk about ammonia buildup in our next video. I'm hoping to see you then. Till then, bye bye.